On this Saturday night, the next play for Canada in this high-stakes game of cross-border poker. President Trump says America has all the cards. Is Canada shelving the tax on big tech companies in the cards? And no longer legally protected in the United States, why the risk for deportation has sharply increased for hundreds of thousands of Haitians in America. Taking the temperature of Albertans on a heated topic.
The idea of there being tiers of immigrants should be concerning.
Immigration, the subject of a provincial survey, the controversial questions it poses. Plus, emotional tribute. A future NHL star honors his mother after being chosen first overall in the entry draft.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Anthony Robart.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Well, Canada is once again facing an uncertain week, locked in a heated dispute with the United States over a digital services tax. Now, yesterday, President Donald Trump announced the termination of all trade talks with Canada and even threatened new tariffs. Well, this is all over Canada's plan to tax U.S. tech giants like Google and Meta. Mackenzie Gray is following the story for us. So, Mackenzie, where do things stand today?
The Prime Minister is working today, Anthony, huddling with his top advisor, but there's no new comments from them or anyone from the government about the latest trade hiccup, with U.S. President Donald Trump saying the Americans won't negotiate unless Canada drops the incoming digital services tax. The first payments on that tax are due on Monday for any large tech company that does make more than $20 million in Canada. They're going to have to pay 3% of the money they make in Canada, retroactive back to 2022. Now, it's not just the Trump administration. The Biden administration also said these taxes unfairly target U.S. tech companies, and they say it violates the new NAFTA agreement, something Trump has repeatedly ignored by imposing tariffs on Canada. Ottawa points to the fact that numerous European countries have similar taxes in place. Now, walking away from the table is just the latest erratic move by the president, who has applied, removed, changed, and threatened all kinds of different tariffs on Canada. But this time, he's only said he's walking away from negotiations and seeming to threaten new tariffs in 7 days. But that is a much more impactful move, Anthony, compared to the last flare-up when steel and aluminum tariffs were doubled to 50%.
And Mackenzie, also in the news late last night, the Canadian government also banned a Chinese company from doing business here. How does that factor into dealing with the U.S. trade issue?
Yeah, Anthony, late Friday night, Hikvision, a Chinese security camera company, was banned by Industry Minister Melanie Joly from doing business in Canada, citing national security reasons. The threat of China is one area where Trump and Carney do see eye to eye, and Liberals I've spoken with say that's one negotiating tactic Canada is employing to try and focus Trump back on the Chinese threat and explain what Canada is willing to do to help deal with that. That's part of the reason there were new anti-dumping rules for steel that were announced last week, a sign that Canada is willing to give in to U.S. demands on non-trade issues in exchange for a better trade deal. Other examples include new provisions in Carney's border bill to be able to open mail without a warrant. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has claimed, with limited evidence, that's one major way that fentanyl gets into the U.S. And of course, there's the rapid increase in defense spending, a long-time Trump gripe. But if any of those things will actually help is still up in the air, Anthony, and the clock is ticking, with Carney having set a July 21st deadline to get a deal done.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Mackenzie, thank you. In Iran, tens of thousands of people line the streets of Tehran today for the state funerals of dozens of prominent figures killed during the 12-day war with Israel. Huge crowds of mourners dressed in black chanted slogans, waved Iranian flags, and held portraits of some of the 60 people being honored. They include some of the country's top military commanders and nuclear scientists. And more than 600 people are said to have been killed in the Israeli attacks. And health workers in Gaza say Israeli strikes killed at least 72 people overnight. Among them, a family with 3 children that died while sleeping in a tent for displaced people. In Gaza City, the attack created a huge crater. Palestinians spent the day searching the debris for bodies and belongings. This amidst a growing humanitarian crisis. U.S. President Trump, meanwhile, claims a ceasefire is possible within the next week. Ukrainian officials say Russian drones struck the city of Odessa, killing 2 people and injuring at least 17. The overnight attack damaged a residential building and trapped residents. Russia has stepped up strikes on Ukrainian cities as diplomatic efforts to end the war have stalled. The Trump administration says it is ending legal protections for Haitians who sought refuge from violence in the Caribbean country. Now, the Department of Homeland Security says it's safe enough in Haiti for the program to end in September. But hundreds of thousands of people now face the risk of deportation to a place that has been under a state of emergency since March of last year. Candace Cole reports.
Temporary protected status for Haitian migrants in the U.S. is set to end on September 2nd, according to the Department of Homeland Security, putting more than 300,000 Haitian migrants at risk for deportation. The decision comes just months after Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ended TPS extensions for Haitian migrants in February. Haitians were first granted temporary protections under the Obama administration following the deadly 2010 earthquake and has been repeatedly extended due to rampant gang violence and political instability following the 2021 assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. In the announcement, Noem said that conditions in Haiti no longer meet the requirements of TPS designation and that Haitians can return home in safety despite the ongoing humanitarian crisis there.
Over the next few months, we're very concerned about the reduction in humanitarian funding, which will lead to a decline in assistance. That means smaller rations and reduced numbers of people receiving much needed humanitarian assistance.
Haiti is one of 5 countries most at risk for food insecurity. Earlier this week, the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince urged Americans not to travel to Haiti and to leave as soon as possible. The country has been under the State Department's no travel list since last September due to kidnapping, crime, and civil unrest. Haitians in the U.S. are just the latest group to have their temporary protected status stripped away. The same was announced for migrants from Afghanistan, Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela back in March. During a press conference Friday, President Trump hinted that TPS status for El Salvador may soon be under review.
Well, we'll take a look. We've had a great relationship with El Salvador. They have a fantastic leader. We'll talk about El Salvador. A lot of respect.
The Department of Homeland Security is urging Haitians and other groups to self-deport and says Haitian nationals can pursue lawful status through other means if possible. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
And U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has been ramping up arrests at a record pace. There are reports about 55 Canadians are among those detained. Now, according to a deportation data project from UC Berkeley, ICE arrests have more than doubled across 38 states since President Trump took office in January. And while the highest number of arrests took place in states with largest immigrant communities like Texas, Florida, and California, the rate of ICE arrests has risen sharply in more rural states like Idaho, which has seen a staggering increase of 924%. Hundreds gathered in Minnesota to pay their final respects to a prominent state lawmaker and her husband. Among the mourners for Melissa and Mark Hortman was former U.S. President Joe Biden. The couple was shot dead in their home 2 weeks ago by a man posing as a police officer. Their golden retriever, Gilbert, was badly injured in the attack as well. He was later put down. He actually joined them to lay in state at the Minnesota Capitol yesterday. Immigration is one of the issues Albertans are being asked about this summer in a government survey. Now, this is part of the province's so-called Alberta Next Panel. This involves a series of online questions related to its relationship with the federal government and includes whether the province should have the option to withhold social services from newcomers. As Heather Yourex-West reports, some say that sends the wrong message.
So what can Alberta do about the situation? Quite a bit, actually.
Before Albertans can respond to the provincial government's new online survey, a short video must be viewed. And in 4 minutes, its position on immigration becomes pretty clear.
Everyone wanting to come should be committed to upholding the Canadian values of hard work, love of freedom, and peaceful coexistence.
After the video says immigration is to blame for high housing costs and unemployment rates, it floats a solution.
If Alberta isn't satisfied with the number or kind of newcomers moving to our province, we may have the option to withhold provincial social programs
before asking respondents if they agree.
I think it's an attempt at a measured approach to curate growth only alongside the growth of public service.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says the survey results will help develop a series of questions to be put forward next year in a referendum, needed at a time when separatist sentiment is, according to the Premier, at an all-time high.
This is part of the reason for the Alberta Next process. We know that we have to be able to make a strong case for a united or a strong Alberta within a united Canada, but we also have to address the things that are causing the rise in that sentiment.
But the survey's narrative is concerning to those who work with immigrants, who say most newcomers arrive in Alberta with a work permit in hand.
I would suggest that the survey is very scapegoating. It sounds like it's really not based on evidence or facts.
Calgary's lone Liberal MP, Corey Hogan, has concerns as well.
The idea of there being tiers of immigrants should be concerning to Albertans. The idea that we are having this conversation in a fashion that is designed to get one outcome should be concerning for Albertans. And certainly I think Albertans deserve better from government consultations.
Alberta wants you. Alberta needs you.
It was just 3 years ago that Alberta launched a massively successful Alberta is Calling campaign to attract skilled workers from other parts of the country. The message from this new survey, it seems, Alberta's not calling some people anymore. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
And still in Alberta, a judge has blocked Bill 26, a provincial law that bans doctors from providing gender-affirming care to youth. Last fall, the province passed the bill prohibiting doctors from treating children under 16 years old with puberty blockers and hormone therapies. But on Friday, a temporary injunction was issued preventing its implementation. The judge saying the law raises serious charter issues that need to be argued in court, and that the bill could cause irreparable harm to gender-diverse youth and their families. The provincial government is expected to appeal the court's decision. The billion-dollar controversy in British Columbia. Coming up, the political storm BC Ferries has found itself in after outsourcing its ship contract to China. A political storm is brewing at BC Ferries over a shipbuilding contract. The federal government is providing up to $1 billion to modernize the aging fleet. But Ottawa is criticizing the decision to award the contract to a Chinese state-owned shipyard. Neetu Garcha reports.
On the water this weekend, all 37 BC Ferries vessels are set to be in service. But as travelers set sail, so too does a debate over who should build the ferries of the future and who should foot the bill.
Our ships have aged out. We have to replace them today.
The Canada Infrastructure Bank, a Crown corporation, is providing $1 billion to BC Ferries. The lower than market rate loan will help finance 4 new hybrid vessels with the potential for them to go fully electric.
Over the course of the term of the loan, we'd be saving $650 million in interest charges if we had to pay market rates. So that is a transformational shift.
But the decision to build those ships in China at a state-owned shipyard has drawn criticism from Ottawa. Last week, Transport and Internal Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland sent a letter to the province asking to confirm no federal funding will be diverted to support the acquisition of these new ferries. Now her office has gone further, telling Global News, Canada, our workers, our steel, aluminum industries and manufacturing sector are currently being hit very hard by tariffs. The world has changed and we need to do more to buy and build domestically and from our allies. The office of the minister who oversees the Canada Infrastructure Bank, Gregor Robertson, saying it's extremely disappointing to see that BC Ferries has made the procurement decision they have. Although BC Ferries confirms that no Canadian companies bid on the contract, we need to do more to buy and build domestically and from our allies. With Seaspan already building Coast Guard and Canadian Navy ships, it may not have capacity to build ferries for years.
There are some very promising opportunities for us to be able to work together with smaller local shipyards. I don't ever want to be in the situation again where there is not a Canadian bid on a major civilian boat contract.
BC Ferries defends its choice, saying the Chinese bid was $1.2 billion less than European alternatives. The new ships are expected to set sail in 2029, all against the backdrop of ongoing trade turmoil with the U.S. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Vancouver.
Canada's defence promise ahead, where that money pledged at the NATO summit will be spent. How the mining and artificial intelligence sectors could benefit. This week, Ontario unveiled $215 million in additional funding in support of the province's shipbuilding industry. This is being billed as the first wave of a historic defence spending push with the federal government. The funds came just a day, in fact, after Prime Minister Trump-Carney committed Canada to the biggest increase in military spending since the Second World War. Nathaniel Dove looks at Ottawa's new NATO commitments and why some say it's not just about the armed forces.
The new NATO targets at 5% of GDP, those new NATO targets, are tailored to address new threats and challenges.
Canada is committing to a massive rearmament to spend 5% of GDP on defense, approximately $150 billion as of 2025. 3.5% goes directly to defense. The remaining 1.5% is earmarked for broader defense-related industry and infrastructure.
So that means ports, airports, infrastructure to support the development and exportation of critical minerals.
It does seem like there's a lot less rigor and fidelity around the additional 1.5% of non-core defense spending.
Defense analyst David Perry says in the past, infrastructure that's helped deploy NATO troops has counted.
America has shown her confidence in Eisenhower.
For American President and former General Dwight D. Eisenhower, that included many American highways. His administration spearheaded a massive expansion of the interstates. The man he put in charge of that push, another former general, told the Senate the roads have been certified to national defense. The internet was also invented with American military funding. Perry says similar projects now could include cyber abilities, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing, and something those fields require.
If Canada can help focus on that and be a leading provider of critical minerals to the NATO alliance, I think that would be a massive benefit to the Canadian economy.
We're starting to getting educated that, these are really critical, that there's hundreds of pounds of these in the F-35, jets. And so this is tied to national security now.
A former parliamentary budget officer says mining and exporting critical minerals could represent many new jobs if Canada can build towards it.
I know that they're looking at all of that right now, that supply chain. And so we don't have that right now.
Most of the existing critical mineral supply chains now run through China, which is a massive problem in a whole bunch of different ways.
It will take massive investment that must start right away, Page says. To receive any benefits from defense spending can mean spending like we're at war. Nathaniel Dove, Global News.
Well, Canada's largest Pride celebrations are culminating this weekend with the country's biggest Pride parade set to take over downtown Toronto on Sunday. But before the main event, thousands line the streets for individual events commemorating Pride Month. Lexi Benedict was there as communities came together to show their support.
Loud and proud, Toronto's annual Dyke March made its way through the city, showcasing both protest and pride.
Today we celebrate lesbians and the Dykes who have been integral to this movement.
Fitting into this year's Pride theme, All In, this march is about showing up, being seen, and rallying for Dykes and lesbians and the entire LGBTQ2+ community.
Pride is political. Pride started as a protest, so we're here to really continue that.
I'm a proud lesbian, and I just love expressing myself.
Electric energy, from drums to colorful signs to chants and cheers. A chance for the community and allies to raise their voices, uplift their identities, and unite at a time when it's needed most.
Celebrations of this sort, no matter how large or small, are incredibly important, especially for our youth who are under siege and who really need to have positive alternatives.
I think, these days when there's so much bigotry and regressive legislation, it's really important to represent our identities even more loudly and visibly than ever before.
Mayor Olivia Chow also taking part in the festivities. Happy Pride! And it's these Pride festivities that make many feel proud of Toronto.
It's really nice to be around so many diverse queer people and be in such a big, diverse city that really represents queer diversity in Canada. And I cannot wait to really shout out and really be proud of this community and of everyone.
Lexi Benedict, Global News.
And that's Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Anthony Robart. Tonight's Your Canada showcases the Discovery Islands off the coast of BC, Bedford, Nova Scotia, and our national and provincial flags in McCreary, Manitoba. Thank you so much for watching. Anne Gaviola will be at the anchor desk tomorrow. Have a great night.